What if the law firm model that attorneys have been following for decades, the hourly billing, the downtown office, the reactive phone tag intake process, is the very thing that's keeping you from the firm life that you actually want? One estate planning attorney decided to find out. She scrapped the office, scrapped the hourly rate. She built a firm that was fully virtual, completely flat rate, and runs on automation and education instead of busy work and burnout. And her clients love it. The attorney is my guest today. And by the end of this episode, you're going to see exactly how she did it and what it could mean for your firm. Welcome back to the Endeavors AI podcast. I'm your host, Colin McKee, and this show is where we talk to attorneys and firm operators who are using technology and smarter systems to build practices that are actually sustainable. My guest today is Angel Latterell. Angel is the founder of Latterell Law, a fully virtual, flat rate estate planning firm operating across Florida and Washington State. But here's what makes Angel interesting to me and what I think is going to make her interesting to you. She didn't just use technology to do the same old thing faster, she used it to redesign the model entirely. Flat fees, virtual delivery, event based marketing, automation that actually works. And she's done it while building genuine trust with her clients who are navigating one of the most personal decisions that they'll ever make. Angel, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Colin.
And so before we get into your story, I want to set the stakes for people listening because I think a lot of attorneys are sitting with this tension right now. You got into the work because you care, you want to help people, you want to build something that lasts, but nobody told you that in law school that you were also signing up to be a billing administrator, a scheduler, a follow-up machine, and an IT department. And in estate planning, especially, you're doing something of one of the most emotionally significant work that someone will do, and you're doing it while buried in admin work. So the question I keep hearing from attorneys is, how do I keep doing work I love without losing myself in the rest of it? And I think Angel has found the answer to that. So let's start at the foundation. Most estate planning firms look roughly the same: office hours, hourly billing, the retainer call, follow up invoice, and you went a completely different direction with this. So, walk me through Lateral Law, how it actually works on a day to day basis, and what you built and why you built it that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, one of the reasons why I decided to build Lateral Law the way I have, which I will share in a moment, is because my first experience out of law school was working in a large firm. And I immediately knew that why I went to law school, which was to help people, and the practice of law in a law firm with hourly billing and the transactional approach didn't jive with my heart and how I wanted to practice law and counsel clients. I'd get in trouble in that law firm because I would call clients when I was assigned a folder and say, the clock is not ticking. Please tell me your context so I can better understand and serve you. And so as a young lawyer, that law firm was like, you don't know anything about running a business, do you? Because I wasn't, I wasn't about how many hours can I build this client, but how can I better serve the client? And so when the time came for me to, after many years of actually not practicing law full time, just doing volunteer work and side gigging as a lawyer, but when the time came for me to launch my own practice, I was very set on, if I was going to go into law full time and run my own practice, that I'd have to do some things very differently. And 100% of like top thing I wanted to do differently is, how do I not treat a client like a transaction? How do I get the time clock out of our relationship? And so that meant I needed a process where I could serve people in a model that allowed me to bill flat rate that would cover my costs, but also give people and deliver value and deliver the ability and space for us to have a long-term relationship where trust develops, so I could be a long-term trusted advisor for families. And so when I launched Lateral Law, I was very particular. I had actually gone out and done quite a bit of research on different models in business. I knew how I didn't want to practice, but I didn't necessarily know how I wanted to practice. And so I took partially what I learned in my non-law learnings, 15 years as a project management and process improvement leader, and figured we could create standard work. And so that's absolutely what we did. So that way we could actually bill flat rate for different sized packages, but within each of those packages, leave us space for the time and energy that we need to spend each with each family, uniquely. And so how it works at Lateral Law is somebody finds us, either they find us through a education based opportunity on a webinar or an in person event, and they'll sign up for a life and legacy session. And or if they find us on the internet through either organic marketing or SEO, you name it, however they might come across our law firm, they can book a 15-minute discovery call with our firm to find out if we're a good fit. And the point of that discovery call is not to sell them estate planning and say, this is why you want to sign up with Lateral Law, but to explain to them the value that they'll get from a life and legacy planning session, which is a 2-hour consultative event that they come having done a whole bunch of pre-work so that, one, they're more organized than they've ever been coming to meet with me and understand their own context, their own why. And then in the 2 hours, I have got that homework ahead of time so that I understand where they're coming from. And then we start out by just getting to know each other and understanding their why, what's motivating them to plan at this time. And then when we have that clarity and context, I can share with them, okay, based under the laws of the state of Washington or the state of Florida, now that I serve in both states, this is your default situation. Like if you did nothing today, did nothing and you died tomorrow, this is the situation your loved ones would face in that situation. And it's at that moment that the client gets the opportunity to choose if they want to go forward and work with us based on an outcome that they desire that's different than their default situation. So they would choose from a host of about roughly 5 different standard packages that, depending on the outcome they desire, they choose that package. And then there's a flat rate fee that's associated with that package. And then that starts us on the path to design, draft, properly fund their trust, or make sure that their will plan is in alignment with the proper beneficiary designations if they don't go with a trust plan. And everybody goes down kind of a standard project managed route to ensure that we get to not only a complete set of documents, but a complete comprehensive plan for them. And no matter how long it takes. So as far as time, I'd rather people have lots of questions and we spend a ton of time designing it into the context of their family than them worrying, oh, well, how much is it going to cost me to have a whole, all these different back and forth conversations with Angel or her staff to make sure that it's done right. So that's what allows us to do the flat rate. And then because we're virtual, we can do this in the context of the comfort of people's homes. That was the other huge thing I recognized in law firms. People didn't like being there. The staff didn't like being there. I think some of the lawyers did, but maybe because they just didn't know what else to do with their lives. But I myself preferred to have the flexible model of working from the comfort of my own home, keeping that cost down, and also being able to travel and see people I want, but still be able to work, have that flex. But ultimately, it made me more accessible to people so that they're comfortable to have these conversations, these crucial conversations, and they don't have to worry about coming into an intimidating and expensive to maintain office that also the staff people don't really enjoy being in either. And as I've learned too, it's helped me have really great, amazing staff that aren't co-located that can serve in the same philosophical manner that we're at.
Great. Yeah, a whole new model. I mean, very, very unique in your approach. So, and even client acquisition was something that is very creative and rare. You go about educating your clients first. You've got these events, the wine and wills, paint your legacy. It's not your typical what you would think of the path to go into estate planning. So, tell me about these. Where did that idea come from, and what has that actually done for your business?
I wish I could have thought of it myself. However, some of the like wine and wills, that format or that combination of alliteration was not necessarily my idea. However, the desire to educate people to get them to estate plan came from my heart because the kind of Venn diagram that fell into place before I opened Lateral Law is I had a very good friend who was running his own business and his unmarried partner. I was helping her do estate planning, and I recommended to him that they do a dual plan together because they were choosing not to be married. And he said to me, Angel, don't worry, let the state take everything. There's nothing there. There's no reason to plan. And I gave him some reasons to plan, but he didn't. And so I allowed that to occur. And we can't make people do things, but he was dead 2 weeks later from a bloodstream infection. And it was a disaster for her afterwards. And I spent 9 months to a year doing pro bono support of her and his family to get everything sorted to the extent that I could. And so that's when I made a vow at that point that I was going to get ahead of this. I was like, this is a place where I could actually do good. This is where I can help people by educating people about the importance of estate planning at any age and any amount of assets, because most people mistake estate, right, for thinking, oh, I need to have a yacht, a big mansion, etc., to have an estate, quote unquote. But anybody who has a bank account and a kid or any kind of responsibility has a quote unquote estate. And so that education forward approach was how the only way I thought I could actually really reach people. Like the whole point, let me get out, educate people, even if they don't choose to plan with me, at least maybe they'll choose to put a plan in place with somebody, so being not non-attached, because honestly not everybody's a good fit for lateral law and the flat-based model, and not everybody likes being as nosy as I am about their context, which is fine, but I'm happy to get out there. And so, but most of our client acquisition is done through education based modeling, getting them the good word out there to educate that every person, no matter how old or how rich or abundant they are, needs to have an estate plan. And so we try different models. Wine and Wills is one that comes from the education and a lawyer group that I work with, and that's great because here's the carrot: come have some free wine and wine tasting, and meanwhile we'll give you education about what's the difference between why you need a will and what's the difference between a will and a trust, and have open Q&A time with the lawyer when people are a little loosened up. We have recently switched to adding to our education is free webinars, so that we can reach people. I'm working on one with my alma mater, McAllister College, coming up for August. I did one with KEXP in Seattle, again, for their planned giving programs. Just again, as much education as I can put out there, even if they're not going to come back to me as a client, at least I'm putting it out there, the education. And then we're trying Paint Your Legacy, because again, young people are actually my ideal group that I'm targeting with these, because a young person, unless the information is in their face or they're faced with tragedy themselves in their own life, isn't going to necessarily be motivated to plan on their own. And so if we have a fun activity like wine tasting, or in this case, a paint party, which is what Paint Your Legacy is, come have a paint party. We painted angels, we painted mermaids the other day. We'll paint, something else thematic of the time of year again for the next one, but come have a paint party. And also, while you're painting, get free education on the importance of estate planning. So it's something you can actually bring. I had a mother and daughter come to the last one, and she was a young person. She was ready at age 21 to do her own estate plan, of which we actually discussed, and we're like, well, we can actually do your plan with moms and call it a young adult plan, and save you some money in the process, because we have to go through all of it. But it was so motivating to her to hear the information and know, oh, I need my own power of attorney. I need a healthcare power of attorney, because even though mom would be the one I want to make this decision as soon as I turn 18, it's not an automatic that your parents have access to that. So it was great that I was able to motivate someone that young through the education to desire to have their own plan.
Yep. Yep. Seems like they would take ownership a little bit more of it in that case, because it kind of just spurs the seed, and then they can say, "Oh yeah, this is a great idea for myself," as opposed to someone else trying to force them into thinking that far in advance. And you're right, the younger generation, they really don't think about it, and even those in the middle age don't really think about it until they really have to. So that's great that you're making them be responsible with their planning at a younger age. That's awesome.
Yeah. We're ultimately trying to flip the script a little. Like, I don't plan like a normal estate planning attorney. Like, I don't expect people to come in and say, I need A, B, and C, and then I just deliver A, B, and C. That's what, software's for nowadays. Like, anything can go out and write your documents. I want people to come to me and share their fears, their hopes, their opportunities, and then be empowered through my process of kind of understanding how we can use creating these wonderful legal containers of protection to not only mitigate their fears and give them peace of mind, but have a more hope and a more abundance in the future, because they actually are empowered and understand how these legal tools can work for them to seize more opportunities in life. And the younger I meet people, the more opportunity we have to build, and a stronger foundation we have to build their lives upon using estate planning, not just, putting a band-aid on a patch on a thing like down the road. Like, so
Cool. So let's talk a little bit about the operation level of things of running a virtual firm, because it's obviously going to be a little bit different than those who go into an office. You told me that as far as automations, you've started to use GoHighLevel, GHL for a lot of the people in my viewing audience. How does that actually look on a day to day basis? As far as what have you been able to automate, to get your time back and to be able to run your office virtually with these new tools?
Yeah, and running a virtual office has there's aspects of it that make it very freeing, and then there's aspects of it that can be very frustrating on some days because the even Google doesn't really understand yet the virtual office model. If there's literally no physical address where people to go, it can cause little hiccups here and there. But we, for the sake of our digital front door, that's one of the areas where there's various tools out there, but we've chosen to go with GoHighLevel because it is it allows for there to be very many doorways, and it's easy to track who's coming through which door. Whereas other softwares we have experimented with, from everything down from a Google sheet or an Excel spreadsheet, old school tracking, to different CRMs that we've used over the years. We've used many actually, but we've GoHighLevel so far has been the best because the honest ease and intuitiveness of its ability to track all the various sources that people are coming from, so that we know we have ROI if we're putting out organic content or paid content in different places. Where are they coming from? Secondarily, it allows us to have a really visual pipeline for my staff to do follow-ups, because someone may call and we might miss the call, and then it sends the person who we missed the call from a text saying, hey, oh, we sorry we missed you, would you like to actually schedule an appointment so we can call you? And that has been a game changer for that to actually work, because also through the system we have now caller ID, which in a virtual office, it's harder than you would think to actually have caller ID work, so that when you're calling someone, they know it's Latterell Law calling them. It's a person they signed up to receive a phone call from. But when you don't actually have a physical location, there's a lot of softwares out there where they're like, sorry, it works sometimes, but doesn't other times. But we finally cracked that code. So that's been excited. And that pipeline and the lead management, we can sort and sift and know, okay, did we call this person back? Okay, we did. We got in touch, but not right now. And then we can put them on a shorter long-term nurture, so that that person's in their own time is in connection with us, so that they can, still set that appointment to get that discovery call when it actually, works for them, or, contact us in a year or so when a life and legacy session makes more sense for them at that time. So yeah, lead management has been a total game changer for our sanity, and for, knowing we're not missing people that do desire to talk to us just because they maybe called on a weekend and we weren't manning the phones live at that time.
Yep, that's huge. I mean, they don't always need to speak to someone, but they need a response. They need something. If not, it's going to be on to the next number in the white pages or the Google search or what have you. So
Mhm.
that's going to definitely make sure that you're not completely losing a potential client. So that's great to hear. Did want to kind of go into, you shared a wonderful story on our first call that hit home hits home to me. Endeavors AI, we are an AI consultancy. Haven't had the pleasure of working with Angel, but there's a lot. AI is everywhere, and there are a good number of people that are, hopefully trying to do the right thing and helping people navigate it. That's our aim. But you were nice enough to share your experience with kind of the good and the bad, spy versus spy of your AI consultancies. And we don't need to call anybody out. We're not trying to, give any bad press, but I did want you to share a little bit of your experience, the first time through with someone trying to help you navigate AI, how that went and what you learned from it to get you to your experience now working with a consultant that's markedly a better experience, at least from what you shared. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, and it's both a lesson in working with AI consultants as well as SEO consultants and just consultants in general and promises. And we had navigated on our own for years, and kind of we're failing forward, but at a very slow pace. And we kind of finally hit a wall, and so I had put my feelers out for the first individual, and they came in offering, like a savior. Kind of like we can put on a platter all of these things: SEO, better organic content, a better website, and a system for you to do callbacks and not lose any of these leads. And it should have been the red flag that this is too good to be true, all wrapped in with a bow, and we'll manage your website and these things. And the level of control that they were asking for as well should have been a red flag. But hindsight's 2020, right? And so we went into it, and it did help us transform how we were doing our work. It went from us having, again, very manual spreadsheet and a total loss of a lot of automatic leads, and really manual counting on a month to month basis of how many of these are converting and what is a good use of ROI as far as where we're putting our marketing dollars. We had none of that data. We were kind of just totally guessing. So we started working with this individual, and it did get systematized. The website did transform. We did improve SEO, but behind the scenes, and what I didn't know is they had built it in such a way as it made us completely dependent on them to manage the tech stack. There was hard coding literally built into the website that we found out afterwards. And while they built in this dependency, which was quite costly, and we started tracking ROI when it actually reached the point where I could say, if I invested this much money but I didn't see actually this percentage of ROI, we were supposed to get our money back. And I wrote him because we invested a lot of money. We spent a lot of money on some Google SEO. And at the end of the day, the things that truly, because I had that system, which was great, I could say we only received actually this many new leads through SEO pure than we did just through referrals and education based marketing. But he was always actually trying to discourage me from doing the education based marketing. It's like, it doesn't fit in the system. You don't need to just put it all in SEO, organic and otherwise. And I'm like, one basket isn't the best basket. We reached that state, and I wrote him a letter, and I was like, here's the numbers. Thank you. I have the numbers, but the numbers say this isn't working. So I'd like my initial investment back. To which I got a really canned answer, which was essentially no. And around that same time, we found that he had put some link backs in the back of the website that were linking off to what looked like paid sources and some other things that, as an attorney, are technically unethical for me to do. So we had a double quandary of he's not being in integrity with what he said he would do for us, and also now we have these unethical things. And so we made the hard choice with a conversation with the team to bring it in house and shift gears. Well, and that's when we found out how badly we were dependent on them, because it essentially, by firing them, broke our entire website. And we had no education as to how to really fix these things. We just got kind of a data copy, and then we had to go back to a former web mistress to help us kind of piece together. And it was about a 4.5, 5 month process to get us back to square one, to where we were before we had made the investment in that individual. And when I was having a breakdown, literally one day, when we're at about month 4.5, I was like, there has to be a solution. It can't be this hard. I luckily, through some networking referral based marketing, and met the fellow that is now helping us with our AI. And I essentially called him in a in a in a panic, but to his integrity, he was like, it was so calm, and was like, there are solutions to this, and I'm not going to sell you a perfect solution. What we're going to work together is to build something and do it in iterations, and get clarity, so that, and I'm going to help train your team, and you're going to help train your team, and we're going to get clarity together over time, to build the best system that we know is going to also need to iterate and change and shift. And what was most awesome about that, the different experiences, was like, he didn't try to sell me a magic pill. He said, no, this is an ever changing, difficult landscape. We're in it together, but I'm going to be here for you, not to tell you what to do or build a dependency, but to essentially teach you how to fish, like educate and empower you all with the different types and levels of technology that are there to help you. But I'm also going to listen to your processes and your unique way of being, and how you are, acquiring clients through education-based systems and other unique ways, and help you build a system that's going to help you track people coming in the front door that way. So huge experience.
Right. Yeah. That's the way to think positive out of it. But yeah, it's great life lessons, right? We all want to have everything all at once. We'd love to have all of what AI has to offer to us, but taking it in manageable bites is probably a better idea. And especially when you're working with someone that has the potential to have so much control over your business, give them a little bit at a time and see how that works. Well,
Mhm.
sorry you had to go through that. There's good, bad, and ugly in every industry. But the good thing is you took the education out of it. You took your own medicine in learning, and then you can share. And you thank you for sharing that with our audience. I think it's timely advice that we should all kind of take. Is just don't go for that magic pot of gold all at once. Go one step at a time. So with that, one step at a time. If you want to give our viewing audience some advice, if they're just wading into AI and maybe they haven't done much more than their own Chat GPT or Claude, what is one thing that you'd recommend? A workflow, a system to start building for for a small firm, a boutique firm that's trying to be virtual like you are.
Yeah, so I don't know how far back in the world "garbage in, garbage out" is the phrase, and I'd share it back when I did project management. If someone was trying to create a new process, create a new project, build a product that they were going to then turn into it being routine and operationalized, right? You can have the next shiny thing off the shelf, but if you don't know what your internal process is and how you're going to use it, it doesn't matter how expensive that product is, it's not necessarily going to help you get to a better place. So anyone who is going to add any new thing, whether it be AI based or some other software, or even, another consultant for something in marketing, first get really clear on your process and your end goal. What's your true north? Like, how do you, like, especially as lawyers, how do you want to practice law? Like, how much time do you have to do this work? What's your goal with that? Getting clear on that first before adding the next thing, because that consultant, that product, it's not going to make better something that's an underlying process issue or an underlying time lack issue or an underlying I don't actually like doing this work issue, or I do really like doing this work issue. Because we want to attract the work we want to do, so we enjoy ourselves and have a work life balance. But again, we need to be clear on what our work is before we automate it, so that the computer, the software, the thing that it is can help us do that.
That's
So
such good advice. I mean, and it can't be overstated. AI is a force multiplier, but it will multiply the force the wrong direction if it doesn't have the right direction to go from.
yeah.
So yeah, yeah, stop, take the time, write it out, know what's your vision and where you're going before you try to go there faster. Angel, that's
Sticky notes. That's what I tell people. If you need to do a process map, like, sticky notes, moving it around on the wall, you don't need to have a fancy software for that either. Draw it out however works for your brain, but figure it out manually first. And
yep,
then, yeah, then
awesome.
bring in the automations.
Well, Angel, this has been a really good conversation. I really appreciate the time and sharing your experience with us. Before we go, where can people find you and more about Lateral Law?
Yeah, you can always find me at latterellaw.com. Now, I'm sure the spelling might show up in the notes of
Yep,
this, so I don't need to spell that out. But yeah, that's always a great way to reach out to us. There's a contact form right there. And anybody out there who's wanting to know more about my journey, I'm happy to share. So just reach out there, and we'll talk.
awesome, excellent. And for anyone that's got questions about implementing AI into your firm, that's what we're here for. To have a discussion. We try to do some education work here as well and share people's stories. Best case scenarios, worst case scenarios, so that people can learn from other people's mistakes too. And if you enjoyed the conversation, you found value in it, please share it with someone else in your firm or subscribe. We have these conversations on a pretty regular clip, a few a week. So we welcome more subscribers and more engagement. Leave a comment down below if there's anything that you'd like to get more feedback on. And with that, Angel, again, thank you for your time, and we will see you in the next episode.
Absolutely. Thanks, Colin.